Hey, it's me. I'm back. I hope you enjoyed that last lesson, but now we're going to get into a different universe, different planet now. We're going to leave that old ugly house business, that all cash part of the business. Let's move over into the pretty house business. This should excite you because this is where 90% of my real estate income comes from today, and I think it's the easiest part of the business for you to do. So first, what do I mean by the pretty house business? And the answer is anything that's not owned by a bank or an institution. Pretty houses, to me, means owned by individuals. FSBOs, as we call them, for sale by owners. So our goal is very simple. Go out into the marketplace and contact for sale by owners who have an ad running or a sign in front of their house, or who contact us through running ads and a letter that I'll show you. Take a sheet of paper out called a property information sheet. Record what the facts are about their house, which we have a virtual assistant doing for us and for you, and then decide by that information whether they are a suspect or a prospect and worthy of us following up on. See, all the work's been taken out of that part of it today because virtual assistants do all that front end work. So you get into the picture when you get the sheet with all the facts on it, and then you make the call, determine whether you want to go to the house and get an agreement, and then put it into the sales process, which I'll get to on tomorrow's video. So let's start with the basics. First, you need to know that when we are selling these kinds of houses, we are catering to about 80% of the marketplace that cannot qualify for a loan right now. Either they have a credit issue, they have a debt ratio issue, or they haven't been on the job long enough issue, or they're self-employed, or any of the other things that could keep them from qualifying. Far more people cannot qualify than can qualify. We're catering that entire market, and here's why. In the pretty house business, our simple objective is to buy or lease with terms so that we can offer those terms to the buyers so they don't have to go down to the bank to get into a beautiful home. We control the house with terms so that we can sell the house with terms. The big 5-letter word, terms. Any FSBO who will not allow us to work with them on terms to buy their house is out. We cannot pay retail price for houses and pay full market value. That is not the way to make money in real estate. In fact, that's the way to go broke real fast. So we're only looking for the percentage of the marketplace that'll work with us on terms. Now I know what you're thinking, but Ron, how many people do I have to contact to get somebody to give me terms? Let me give you the answer. Here at Global Publishing in Jacksonville, Florida, where we live and work, we've created a whole team of virtual assistants to contact your customers for you because you told us you needed this done. And because we contact customers for you all over the United States and Canada, we have the facts on the reality of calling sellers. And here's the reality. Out of all the sellers that we call for our clients, 37% of them say yes, they would consider terms. So I'm about to show you what that means. 37%, when asked the right questions, say yes, they would consider terms. And I know that's shocking to many, but that is consistent across the board and has been for a long time now. So let's see what terms means so you can fully understand it and see how quick and easy the money is from this business. So I'm going to go over here to the board. There's 3 types of terms. We're either going to take over the existing debt on the property because the seller says, I just want out, you can have it for what I owe on it. You can have it for what I owe on it. Well, having it for what I owe on it doesn't mean I'm going to write a check to pay off your loan. It means I'll start making payments on your loan whenever the seller and I agree, but I'm not liable for the debt, I'm not assuming the debt, I'm not applying for the debt, nobody's going to check my credit. We're going to take over the debt. Loan stays in seller's name, title transfers to you, the buyer. I have done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these just like that. Okay, next thing, and the most common today, is lease it with an option to buy it. I'll lease it from an option to buy it from the seller, and then I will do one of 2 things. I will either sublease it out to my tenant buyer for a higher price and a larger payment, stay in the middle, or I will just assign my lease and get a check and be out of it. I'll come back to that in a minute. And thirdly, my favorite actually, is to buy it with owner financing, and then I have the option of either, let's move over here, Elliot. Here's my exits. If I buy it with owner financing, I can either sell it with owner financing, or I can lease option it to a tenant buyer until they get a loan and cash me out. So here's my exits, very simple. If I lease option it from the seller, I can sublease it out to the tenant buyer. That's called a sandwich lease option, because I'm the meat in the middle. I'm leasing it from the seller, subleasing it to a buyer. Perfectly legal to do so, all in the agreements, all legal. By the way, everything we do is closed with an attorney. Buying and selling, all of our deals are closed with an attorney, as should yours be as well. Proper paperwork, proper agreements, proper disclosure, everything's disclosed in writing. Or, if I buy it by either taking over the debt or buying it with owner financing, of course I can always pay cash for it as well, I can sell it with owner financing. If I own the property, I can sell it with owner financing. If I'm leasing the property from the seller, of course I can't sell it with owner financing because I don't own it. And thirdly, I can't do either one of these because the math won't allow it normally. Then I'll just assign my contract, put a tenant buyer or a buyer in place, and collect a fee for an assignment fee. So I get paid for assigning my contract because I didn't want to stay in it. In fact, I'm about to show you three examples of three different kinds of examples of deals that are like that. In fact, there's three ways FSBOs will come at you. There's three different ways they're going to come. Number one, they're going to be over leveraged. About 17% of the houses available in this country for sale right now, according to USA Today recently, are over leveraged. That means there's more owed on them than they're worth. About 34% of them are free and clear. But you didn't know there were that many houses free and clear out there, did you? 1/3 of the houses in the country are free and clear. And then the rest of them have a mortgage on them, but they have some equity in it. In other words, they owe less than the current market value of the property. So again, they're either over leveraged, they have debt plus equity, or they're free and clear, which means they have all equity. Those are the three kinds of FSBOs you're going to run across. So again, our goal, pick out the ones that are in any one of those three categories, decide who will allow us to get into their house with terms by asking simple questions that I've put on scripts for you, which are located below incidentally, and then determine who we should go see by reading an appointment script, which I've put it below for you so you can just read it. Go out and get an agreement, which I'll discuss with you tomorrow, and that will be on tomorrow's lesson, and then put it into the sales mode, which I'll discuss with you tomorrow when we talk about selling these big beautiful homes in these gorgeous areas. So let's start with the golden sheet called the property information sheet that we use in our business to determine what our next step is. All right, well, let's start with an example of an over leveraged property. You'll see on your screen right now the property information sheet that we actually use to collect information from sellers. Now remember, in my case, and hopefully in the near future your case, a virtual assistant will be filling out this sheet for you and then sending it to you so then you can follow up. Let's take a look at it. In fact, what you're looking at here is a document that took me a lot of years to create, recreate, and recreate, and finally today it is designed so that anyone can fill it out and know the right questions to ask to determine whether we're going to get terms or not. And I'll say it again, our whole goal is to get terms, because without terms, we're out of here. Get terms or get the door. We're never going to go look at a property unless the seller has acknowledged that they're either going to sell it for what they owe, lease purchase it, or sell it with owner financing. If we don't get a yes answer to one of those three questions, we have no reason to go any further. If you look down in the middle of your sheet, you'll see very simple wordage that allows your VA or you or someone working with you to ask those questions without having to remember them. The top of the page is all about the basic information. By the way, of course, we've redacted the critical information on these sheets to protect the innocent. Even though I've left the street on there and the basic facts, of course I'm not going to print the cell phone of the seller or the street address. Take a look at the top and you'll see that this seller is asking $350,000 for this house. In a minute I'll show you a picture of it. And that the seller thinks it's worth about $300,000. So the seller seems to be asking more than what it's worth. Well, why not? Maybe somebody will say yes. But look down where it says your comps. This is where the student has written $275 or $285 because they've gone on sites like Zillow or Trulia or Redfin and looked at some comps to see what the houses were selling for in the neighborhood similar to our house, and that's what they came up with, which is good enough. From that, we've determined that the real market value of this property is about $280,000. Similar properties have sold in the same neighborhood recently for about the same price. So we got an ARV, as we call it, or an after repaired value of $280,000. Now if you look in the middle, you'll see that the loan balance, according to the seller, is $300,000 and the payment is about $2,000. And look right in that down below on that block, and it says PITI. Yes, that stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Now there's a reason there's a star out beside that block, and that is because, my friend, this is critical information. You cannot determine what to do next if we don't learn what the loan balance is on the property and the monthly payment, and if it's current or in arrears. And if it's in arrears, about how far in arrears. That block must be filled out, whether you're filling it out or whether your VA is filling it out. Now come right down below that. Now's where you get into the really cool scripts. If you look over to the left, it says, if the asking price and the loan balance are within $35,000, in other words, the seller is asking very little more than what he owes, then ask that question. And in this case, that question was asked because the seller thought it was worth about $300,000, but he owed $300,000, which led the VA to believe that he'd sell it for what he owes. And if you look there, sure enough, he was right. Notice there's a check mark under that in that little block that says yes, he'll sell it for what he owes, and he would lease purchase it. Look in the middle. It says if we agree on a price and we accept all responsibility for future repairs, would you consider a lease purchase? He checked that yes there as well. So in this case, the right block doesn't apply. Now look down below. Does it need repairs? No. That means the house is in excellent condition. Reason for selling, because it's a rental property. That's good. The seller's not even living in it. Now, when do you want to move? Well, the tenant is moving this weekend. What would that tell us? It tells us that pretty soon the seller's going to have to start making a $2,000 payment again, and it's likely we've got some pretty good motivation to have a different exit strategy. Now look, this is a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2,500 square feet. Beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood, exactly the kind that we want to work with. So by looking at this property information sheet, we immediately knew it's time to get this seller on the phone, verify the facts, and determine whether we wanted to go to the house or not. So now let's take a look at the script that we would use to call this seller back. You'll see it on your screen. It's labeled script to call back a FSBO with a yes on will you sell for what you owe. Do we have a yes on will you sell for what you owe? The answer is yes, we do. So let's read the script. Hi, John. This is Ron calling about your home you discussed with my assistant yesterday. Do you have a minute? I always like to give them a chance to tell me if they want to talk now, instead of rudely interrupting them. Okay, well look, I've got all the facts here, and you've indicated you sell the house for what you owe on it. Is that correct? Follow the lines down and you'll see if the seller says yes, which they did in this case. Well, your next answer is, well, okay, look, I can come see the house and likely buy it and close as soon as you're ready and pay closing costs, but the only way for me to do it is to take over your debt. That means I'll buy your house and make the payments when you and I agree to start, but the loan will stay in your name until sometime in the future when I get it cashed out. Will that be a problem for you? My friend, if you will read that paragraph exactly like I wrote it, you'll find out it's usually not a problem for them, especially when they owe more on the house than it's worth. Remember, this seller owes $300,000. It's only worth $275 or $280. So does this seller have a problem? The answer is of course. That's going to make them very, very motivated. Now follow the line on down. If there's no problem, then you see appointment script, which we're going to come back to in a second. But if there is a problem and they don't want to just give you the house and walk away and hope you'll make their payments, then we have another plan. Follow the arrow down to where it says yes. That'd be a problem? Yes. Well, if that's an issue, I can also lease purchase it or buy it with owner financing and cover your payment with rent and handle all the repairs. Does that seem more appealing? If the answer is yes, you make an appointment. If the answer is no, get off the telephone after asking. So you're saying the only way you'll sell us if your loan is paid off? Because my friend, if the only way they will sell is if their loan is paid off, you cannot help them. Let me say that again. You cannot help them. So this now goes into the suspect pile, not the prospect pile. On your screen, you'll see a picture of the house. It's on Ribbon Road. The purchase price was the loan balance at the time we purchased it. You see, I didn't purchase it. I didn't agree to purchase it for the loan balance. Actually, I didn't agree to purchase it. I agreed to lease it with an option to buy for the loan balance at the time we purchased, knowing full well that since he owed more on it than it was worth, I would not be staying in the deal for a longer term. I agreed to purchase it for the loan balance at the time that was cashed out, which means every single month that goes by, the loan balance is less and less. You see, my tenant buyer now is paying $2,200 a month for rent, which covers the seller's $2,200 principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment. By the way, the property information sheet said it was $2,000, turned out to be $2,200. So all I did was find somebody who wants to live in the house with an option to buy the house and pay $2,200 a month rent. Therefore, the seller is getting their payment paid for as long as it takes that tenant buyer to go get a new loan and cash them out. But look at the bottom there. We received $15,000 from our tenant buyer as an assignment fee to assign them the contract and put them in our position and let them take over that lease for 5 years. This deal that you're looking at now is called an ACTS deal. ACTS, or Assignment of Contracts and Terms System, which was invented about 2.5 years ago now and has really changed our industry. For the first time, now we found a way to get paid on over-leveraged houses, and what a great service for the seller and for the buyer. If you'll notice, we kept the entire $15,000 plus the first month's rent. This from the 30 days after the attorney closed the lease purchase agreement with our buyer. Now our seller is collecting $2,200 a month directly from our buyer, and we're out of it, and we got a release signed by the seller. So that's a pretty good example of a quick in and out. It did take 48 days because honestly we turned down several buyers that we didn't like. It is our responsibility to make sure that we put somebody in the house that looks like it can make the payments, and finally one did come along that we like. So that deal is long gone. We made $17,200 and have no more responsibility to the house whatsoever. All right, well, that takes care of an over-leveraged house. Now, if you remember, there were 3 kinds of those properties that or types of deals you're going to get on those VSBOs, and the second one was one that has a debt but still has some equity in it. So take a look at the property information sheet on your screen right now, and you'll see that the seller is asking $255,000 up there in the upper right hand corner, but he only owes $185,000. So there's some equity. He doesn't owe anywhere near what he thinks the property's worth. Also note, our indication is that the property's worth $275,000, $280,000, somewhere in that area, because we did have comps that showed those two numbers, $275,000 and $286,000, were both recent sales, or similar size to our house in that area. There's only a $1,300 principal and interest, taxes, and payment on this house, which is very low. I mean, you have to agree. A $1,300 payment on a $280,000 house is a really, really good payment, which immediately tells me that this one is going to be easy to sell if I just let somebody take over my position, and might even want to stay in it if I feel like I could get a strong monthly cash flow above the $1,300. Now let's take a look in the middle. You'll see that in this case, the owner said no, they would not consider a lease purchase. But if you'll move on down there a ways, now when we get down to, so you're saying if we don't get you full price and cash you out, you won't sell? And he said, no, I didn't mean that. All right, so here's what happened. We got on the telephone with the seller and we had a conversation with him and we made him understood what lease purchase means, and finally this seller agreed that he would do a lease purchase. Look on the bottom before I go to the numbers though. This is a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath house, 2,686 square feet. Gorgeous house, gorgeous neighbor. It does need a little bit of work, but it wasn't much. This really, what the seller thought was a little bit of work, was really nothing more than a cleanup. Nice house, nice neighborhood. 2.5 car garage. He says it needs a little bit of cosmetic repair. It did, but very, very, very little. And I will tell you that we did not touch the house. We didn't lay a finger on the house. We put a lease option tenant buyer in it, as is, where is. All right, so let's take a look at this one. This one's on Shetland Pony. It's on your screen right now. Nice house, nice neighborhood. The purchase price was $255,000, which is what the seller's asking, but we leased it from the seller with an option to buy it. And since the purchase price was up there at about retail price, we didn't stay in this one even though we could have, but we later found out that the seller's payment was $1,600 instead of $1,300. You'd think people would know what their payments are, but once you get into it, sometimes that changes. So we found out that his PITI was $1,600. So I decided to just bail out of it on an axe deal and just find somebody to assign this contract to, and that's exactly what we did. Our purchase price on a lease purchase was $255 with a $1,600 rent payment, and it was clear to the seller that we would not begin making that until we found a tenant buyer that we would both approve. Guys, when we go into these axe deals, we do not agree to make payments. We make it crystal clear that until we get somebody in the house, that they will not receive a payment, and that's a condition of our purchase. To make a long story short, we found that tenant buyer, and we got $15,000 from the tenant buyer, and in this case, we actually had to give the seller half of it, so we only netted $7,500 plus the first month's rent. So we got $7,500 plus $1,600 for $9,100 net profit to us on that very simple deal. Let's see what script we would use. That one has got some equity in it. So in this case, we will go to the script that you will find below. Remember, I put all these scripts right below for you to download. Don't forget to do it because this site won't stay up very long. The script says, a script to call back a FSBO with a yes on a lease option question on a property information sheet on a house that is not over leveraged. So it's the same entrance. Then we get down to the second paragraph, says, okay, I've got some I got all the information here, and you've indicated you'd entertain the lease purchase if I cover your payment and maintenance. Is that correct? Now follow the line on down. Go down to the bottom. If the seller says yes, that's correct, then it's okay, well I can probably lease it and cover your payment with rent, and we can work on the price, and when I get there, after I did a little homework. As long as I know you're flexible and realistic, I'm ready to move forward. May I assume you are? If you like the answer, you go to the appointment script. You see how easy it is to get on the telephone, ask some very simple scripted questions, and get to the bottom line quickly. All right, now let's go to my favorite type of deal. That's a free and clear house. I'll show you on the board here. This is kind of like best because of the flexibility. When we got a seller that's flexible, we can create all kinds of deals. I got to tell you, my first choice on a house that's free and clear is to get them to owner finance it. Let me make them a monthly payment, but I own the house because I have more flexibility when I own the house. And there's two kinds of deals I'm going to negotiate with free and clear houses. I'm either going to negotiate a deal with a high price and a high payment and probably even a down payment that's more than I want to pay. If that's all the concession I can get out of the seller, then I'm not going to stay in a deal. I'm going to write it up though and assign my contract because an owner-occupant would love to take over my position and give me money. The second kind of a deal I want to negotiate is one that I can stay in. Low or no down payment and low payment, and of course I'd like to get the price down some. In the pretty house business, it's not about price, it's about the terms. Remember that 5-letter word? So I'm really looking for those that I can stay in. The one that I'm going to show you now though, I didn't stay in, I got out of. Let's see if you can figure out why. The seller agreed to sell this property for $270 on a lease purchase. Turned out to be worth about $285. So he gave us a little bit of equity, and it was free and clear. He agreed to lease purchase it for a 3-year term, as long as he got $1,850 a month, which of course he's got to pay his taxes and insurance out of that. We put it on the market, on the lease purchase, for $10,000. because I couldn't get him to owner finance it. I tried. I tried to get him to owner finance it and sell it to me. No, 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 no. We just wanted to lease purchase it, so we went into the deal based on what the seller said he wanted, and I tried to comply. So we put it on the market. We got a $10,000 deposit, and we signed our contract. So our fee is actually $10,000 plus the first month's rent. So we made $11,850 on that deal. Hey, how many of these you got to do a week to surpass your current income anyway? Do 2 or 3 of these a week and forget the job. No more job needed. I will point out something. We didn't buy this house. We never owned this house. There was no closing costs on this house. An attorney closed it. The attorney charged a fee. The buyer paid the attorney's fee. We had no risk. We had no money invested. We absolutely didn't need any of our credit here. And we walked away with $11,850. Okay, it's not going to make anybody rich, but they sure are nice when those checks come around. I can tell you that. Do enough of them, and it will make you rich. This is a normal deal in this pretty house business, ladies and gentlemen. And there's not a city in the country a deal like that can't be done. Oh, numbers might change. In fact, I'm going to do a lesson pretty soon, and I'm going to show you why this is about the smallest deals you want to do. Because right now we're doing multi-million-dollar deals with 6-figure paychecks on them right here. Instead of $10,000, that's $100,000 or more. And I don't want to get you too upset right now. Let's work our way into that. Right now, let's stay with the basic houses that I know you can wrap your head around and work. Anyway, there's 3 examples of the types of deals that we currently do. And I'm just scratching the surface because I assigned all 3 of those contracts. Soon I'll get you some training on what it's like when we stay in it. In fact, let me give you an example here. What if this gentleman would have financed it with nothing down, and then I'd have bought it even at $270, and then I would have resold it and got a bigger down payment, and I would have also negotiated the monthly payment down some so that I have a monthly spread. My favorite deals are the ones where I get a monthly spread on the payment and I get to keep all the down payment and stay in it and let the golden goose keep laying the golden eggs. So let's go back to the script here on a free and clear house. It's on your screen right now, so let's read that script because this is the one that scares people the most. They don't know what to say when the house is free and clear. So this script says, script to call back a FSBO with a free and clear house with a yes on owner financing question. So let's just start with the second line. Listen, I've got all the facts here and you've indicated you'd entertain taking monthly payments if we agree on a price and terms. Is that correct? And he says yes. Follow it right on down, all the way down the bottom. Well, okay, well, what's the least you could accept on a price if we agree upon terms? Shut up, wait for an answer. Is that the best you can do? Shut up, wait for an answer. You've just got your bottom price, at least to this point. Well, may I assume you will sell with nothing down? My friends, may I assume you sell with nothing down is a totally different question than will you sell with nothing down? And the choice of words will determine whether you get in with nothing down or not. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, who's going to sell with nothing down, right? Okay, well, quit thinking, because here's the facts. Out of all the yeses you get to the question, on the right side of your property information sheet, they say, will you take equity for your monthly installments? 1/3 of them will say, yes, I will sell with nothing down, if asked this way. Not will you, but may I assume you will. Big, big difference. And of course, if they don't want, if they come back and they say no, your next statement is, well, then what's the least you could take down? Followed by, what's the lowest you could take per month? Now, can you see when you get to the bottom of that questioning, you already know what kind of seller, what kind of deal you're going to make? I've either got one I love, or I got one that I'm going to assign, just by simply following that very well-written script. Now let's go to the appointment script. Remember that appointment script, the one that you have to read to them before you decide to go to them? Go down below, it says appointment script, print it off. It says, all right, well, I have a couple more questions for you. Are you the only owner of the house? You do not want to go to somebody's house when there's only one owner there, because you're just going to make a mess. Can you imagine one person trying to explain this to the other person after you've left? That'll be the end of that deal. And secondly, anytime you go out to a house, the intent is to get an agreement signed. you must have husband and wife sign the agreement or the agreement is worthless. So I want to know if they're both going to be there. How many houses do you think I went out and looked at before I started asking that question? And the next question is, okay, if I come to your house and I like what I see and we agree upon the details, are you ready to make a decision now and get some paperwork done while I'm there? My friends, if the answer is no, me no go. I got better things to do than go out and look at houses that I'm not going to buy. It only took about 100 trips to figure that out over a course of about 10 years. So simply ask the questions, get a commitment, then make the appointment after you've determined that the seller is interested in terms. So let's recap. Generate lead, VA calls FISBOs, fills out sheet. Emails them to you, you make one phone call, read script, get to conclusion, make appointment, go see house, take agreement. We're going to definitely discuss that on tomorrow's lesson. All right, now don't forget, down below, you'll see all the scripts that I just read. You'll see the property information sheet right there ready for you to drag off. And you better get them dragged off right now before you forget it, because they're not going to stay up there very long. And if you didn't take me up on my dollar deal yet, you better go do that, because that's not going to stay up long either. That's ronsdollardeal.com. Go all the way through the end. First, it'll sign you up for the dollar deal, and then it'll ask you if you want my two courses I discussed on my last video, you know, the wholesale one and the Ortford Equity, for 80% off. And then it'll take you to a third offer where it gives you my Pretty House course. Hang in there, listen to that whole thing. Now on tomorrow's video, we're going to discuss how to find these beautiful houses in beautiful neighborhoods, and then how to sell them. And we're going to knock that out on one lesson tomorrow. So I'll see you on that video.